The seductive foxwoman told me humans taste divine and proceeded to lick me to prove it. The Moonlit Encounter. Cale Winters adjusted his leather satchel, filled with pressed specimens and weathered journals, as he made camp beside the crumbling stone shrine. The Amber Peak Mountains held botanical treasures found nowhere else: moonlight orchids that bloomed only during celestial alignments, silverleaf moss with healing properties beyond modern medicine's understanding. For 3 years, he'd traveled these remote paths alone, finding comfort in nature's constancy, while the human world had grown too loud, too demanding for his contemplative soul. Tonight's full moon cast everything in ethereal silver, and Cale found himself drawn to the shrine's altar, where offerings of rice and incense still smoldered from earlier travelers. He lit his own candle, whispering gratitude to whatever spirits might listen. The wind carried cherry blossoms that shouldn't bloom this high in autumn, their petals dancing like pink snow around his campfire. "You honor the old ways," a melodic voice spoke from the shadows. "Few mortals remember." Cale spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for the walking staff beside his bedroll. From between ancient cedar trees stepped a woman whose beauty defied natural law. Her hair flowed like spun moonlight, her eyes held the amber warmth of eternal autumn, and 3 magnificent tails swayed behind her like silk banners caught in an invisible breeze. She wore robes that seemed woven from mist and starlight, and when she smiled, Cale felt his breath catch. "Don't be frightened," she said, stepping closer with movements that were simultaneously human and entirely otherworldly. "I am Yuki of the Northern Shrine. I've watched you these past 7 nights, botanist who speaks kindly to flowers and apologizes to the earth when digging roots. Your spirit glows differently than other mortals who climb these peaks seeking only fortune or fame." Cale lowered his staff slowly, his scholar's mind wrestling with wonder and disbelief. "You're a kitsune, the fox spirits from grandmother's tales." "Very real, as you see." Yuki settled gracefully beside his fire, her tails curling around her like living cushions. "Tell me, Cale Winters, why does a man with such reverence for life walk these mountains alone?"
The taste of truth. Cale found himself unable to look away from Yuki's amber eyes, which held depths of starlight and centuries of unspoken stories. She tilted her head with fox-like curiosity, waiting for his answer with infinite patience that only immortal beings possessed. "The world below moves too quickly," he finally admitted, poking at the fire with a stick. "People see only what benefits them. They harvest without gratitude, take without giving back. I couldn't find anyone who understood that every root, every petal carries a life force worthy of respect. So I came here, where at least the mountains don't judge my strange philosophies." Yuki's expression softened with recognition. "Loneliness wears many faces. Mine has worn the same mask for 200 years. She extended her hand, palm up, and a small flame danced across her fingers without burning. "My clan believes kitsune should remain distant from mortals, observing but never connecting. But I've always wondered what it means to truly know another soul, to taste their essence and understand their heart." "Taste?" Cale asked, curiosity overtaking caution. "An ancient ritual," Yuki explained, the flame dissolving into sparks. "We kitsune can perceive truth through intimate contact. The flavor of one's spirit reveals what words often hide. It requires trust and permission I would never take without asking." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that sent warmth cascading down her spine. "Would you let me taste your truth, Cale? Let me understand what makes your heart different from others I've observed." His logical mind screamed caution, but something deeper, perhaps the part of him that had always believed in magic, nodded agreement. Yuki moved with fluid grace, closing the distance between them. Her fingers traced his jawline with feather-light touches, and he noticed how warm her skin felt, like sunlight captured in silk. "Close your eyes," she murmured. "Let yourself feel." When her lips brushed his neck, Kale gasped at the sensation. Not quite a kiss, something more profound. Her tongue traced delicate patterns along his pulse point, and he felt a tingling warmth spread through his entire body, as if she were reading every memory, every hidden wish written in his blood. His hands instinctively found her waist, steadying himself as waves of connection washed over them both. Yuki pulled back slowly, her eyes wide with surprise. "You taste of cherry blossoms in snow, of morning dew on ancient stones. There's grief here, someone who abandoned you for not understanding your path. But beneath that, such capacity for devotion, for seeing beauty where others see only resources." Her voice trembled slightly. "Kale, your loneliness mirrors mine so perfectly it aches." "Then taste again," he whispered, emboldened by her vulnerability. "Let me know yours, too." This time when their lips met, it was mutual exploration. She tasted of wild honey and autumn wind, of moonlight and centuries of watching the world from shadows. Her tails wrapped around them both, creating a cocoon of warmth as the kiss deepened. Kale's hands traced the elegant curve of her spine, while she pressed closer, a soft sound of contentment escaping her throat. When they finally parted, both breathless, Yuki rested her forehead against his. "In all my years, no one has ever offered to understand me in return."
The Valley of Secrets. Dawn painted the mountain peaks in shades of amber and rose as Kale and Yuki sat entwined by the dying embers, neither wanting to break the spell of their connection. She had shifted closer during the night, one of her tails draped across his lap like a living blanket, while his arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. "Come with me today," Kale suggested, his fingers absently stroking the silken fur of her tail. "I'm heading to the Valley of Singing Streams. There's a grove there where luminous fungi grow. I need to document their properties before winter comes." Yuki's smile could have outshone the sunrise. "I know that valley well. In spring, the water lilies there bloom in colors mortals have no names for. I'll show you secrets even your journals haven't discovered." They traveled together as morning mist clung to the mountainside, and Kale found himself constantly distracted by Yuki's presence. She moved through the forest like part of it, her bare feet leaving no trace, occasionally shifting into fox form to dart ahead and investigate interesting scents, before returning to her human shape with delighted laughter. "You see the world differently," Kale observed as they descended a rocky path. "Everything seems to bring you joy." "Centuries teach you to cherish moments," Yuki replied, helping him navigate a tricky ledge with surprising strength. "Mortals rush toward death, but you, Kale, you pause to witness a dewdrop's journey down a leaf. That's incredibly rare. It's what first drew me to watch you." In the valley, Kale showed her botanical techniques, explaining how he carefully harvested only what the forest could spare, always leaving enough to regenerate. Yuki demonstrated her magic in return, coaxing dormant flowers to bloom with touches of spiritual energy, creating displays of color that left him breathless. "Your turn to taste," she said playfully during their afternoon rest beside a crystalline stream. "Kiss me and tell me what you discover." Kale needed no further invitation. He cupped her face gently, mindful of his mortal clumsiness compared to her grace, and kissed her with all the tenderness he possessed. This time he focused on truly perceiving her and felt the weight of centuries of isolation, the ache of watching families form and dissolve while remaining eternally apart, the desperate hope that maybe finally she'd found someone who saw her as more than legend or spirit. When they separated, tears glistened in his eyes. "You've been so alone. How did you bear it?" "I didn't know what I was missing until I tasted your truth. Now I understand what the poets meant about hearts recognizing their other half." As afternoon faded to evening, they lay together on a bed of soft moss, Yuki's head resting on Kale's chest, while his fingers wove patterns through her hair. She taught him words in the spirit language, terms for the space between moonbeams, the sound of snow thinking about falling, the exact shade of amber that meant home. "What if you didn't have to be alone anymore?" Kale asked quietly, his heart hammering. "What if we chose this, chose each other?" Yuki lifted her head, her amber eyes searching his face with ancient wisdom and newfound hope. "Mortals and spirits, the stories never end well. Your life is a candle compared to my eternity. Then let me burn brightly while I can," he insisted, pulling her closer. "I'd rather have this, whatever time we're granted, than return to my hollow existence of pressed flowers and empty conversations." She kissed him then with fierce intensity, pouring 2 centuries of longing into the contact. Her tales wrapped around them both, as clothing became impediments to connection, as 2 lonely souls found solace in shared warmth.
The choice between worlds. 3 weeks passed like a fever dream of discovery and deepening devotion. Kael and Yuki created their own world within the mountain valleys, where mortal and spirit existence blended seamlessly. She taught him to perceive the subtle energies flowing through living things, while he showed her the profound beauty in impermanence, how autumn's death made spring's rebirth meaningful. But their sanctuary couldn't last forever. The summons came on the first frost of autumn, when silver foxes appeared at their camp bearing a scroll sealed with moonlight. Yuki's expression darkened as she read the elegant script, her tails drooping with distress. "The clan elders demand my return," she said quietly, the scroll dissolving into cherry blossoms between her fingers. "They've sensed my bond with a mortal. This is forbidden. They say I'm risking my spiritual essence by loving someone whose lifetime barely registers against eternity." Kael felt his heart constrict. "What happens if you refuse?" "Exile from the spirit realms. I would become Ronin, a wandering soul without anchor, slowly fading until I'm neither fox nor spirit, just a ghost of what I was." Her voice cracked despite her attempt at composure. "But returning means severing our connection, undergoing purification rituals that will erase you from my heart's memory." He pulled her close, feeling her tremble against him. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," she whispered into his shoulder. "I've lived 200 years by clan law. To abandon it now for a love that will end when your mortal years run out? The elders say I'm being foolish, choosing temporary happiness over eternal existence." That night, they held each other with desperate intensity, memorizing every touch, every whispered word. Yuki traced the lines of Kael's face as if committing them to permanent memory, while he braided protective herbs into her hair, yarrow for courage, rosemary for remembrance, sage for wisdom. "What will you do?" she asked as dawn approached. "Return to your botanical studies? Find someone of your own kind to share your life?" Kael was quiet for a long moment, watching the sunrise paint her features in gold. "I've been thinking about what you said, about mortals rushing toward death, but maybe that's not quite right. Maybe we're rushing toward meaning, trying to make our brief candle flame matter before it gutters out." "Where are you going with this?" Yuki asked, hope and fear warring in her expression. "I'm saying that 3 weeks with you has held more meaning than 30 years of solitary wandering. If you return to your clan and forget me, at least I'll carry this, the knowledge that magic is real, that love can bridge impossible distances, that I was seen and cherished by someone extraordinary." He kissed her forehead gently. "But if you choose exile and fading, I choose it too. I'll fade alongside you, making every remaining moment count." Yuki's eyes widened. "You would sacrifice your natural lifespan? Kael, you could live another 50 years. "Alone," he finished, "remembering you but never holding you again. That's not living. That's haunting my own existence." His voice grew firm with conviction. You taught me that time's value isn't measured in duration, but in depth. 3 weeks of truly living outweighs decades of hollow routine." She buried her face in his chest, her tears soaking through his shirt. "The elders will never understand. They'll say I've corrupted you, proven their point about mortals being dangerous to spirit kind." "Then let's prove them wrong," Kael said, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. "Let's find a third option they haven't considered. Not separation, not slow fading, but transformation. Your magic and my knowledge combined. There must be something in the old texts, some forgotten ritual or ancient precedent." Yuki's expression shifted from despair to cautious hope. "There are legends, stories of spirit-mortal bonds so strong they created new forms of existence, but they're considered myths, cautionary tales about the dangers of breaking natural laws." "Myths have to start somewhere," Kael replied with a scholar's determination. "We have until the next full moon before you must answer the summons. That gives us 7 days to research every text, explore every shrine, and find a way to write our own ending."
The Eternal Spring. The ancient shrine of the first Kitsune stood hidden in the deepest part of the Amber Peaks, where even spirits rarely ventured. Kale and Yuki discovered it on their 6th day of desperate searching, guided by cryptic references in Kale's grandmother's journals and Yuki's half-remembered clan histories. The stone fox statue at its center held a scroll preserved by magic for over 1,000 years. As Yuki translated the faded characters, her voice trembled with disbelief. The ritual of intertwined springs. When mortal devotion and spirit essence merge with equal commitment, a new form of existence is born, neither fully mortal nor purely spirit, but something that draws strength from both worlds. "What's required?" Kale asked, his hand finding hers. "Complete vulnerability. We must each offer our truest essence. I must share my spiritual core, you must offer your mortal vitality. If our hearts aren't perfectly aligned, if any doubt exists, the ritual fails and both participants—" She paused, swallowing hard. "Both fade entirely." Kale didn't hesitate. "I have no doubts. Do you?" Yuki looked at him, this mortal who had shown her what it meant to be truly seen, who had chosen her over safety, who loved her enough to risk everything. "None," she whispered. "For the first time in 2 centuries, I'm completely certain." They prepared the ritual as the full moon rose, creating a circle of crystallized moonlight and powdered silver. Yuki shed her physical form, becoming pure spiritual energy that glowed like captured starlight. Kale opened himself completely, letting his mortal essence, every memory, every dream, every ounce of love he possessed, flow freely. When they merged, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The transformation was neither painful nor gentle, but something beyond such simple descriptions. Kale felt his consciousness expand beyond physical limitations while remaining grounded in mortal passion and purpose. Yuki experienced the profound intensity of finite existence while maintaining her spiritual perception. Together, they became something unprecedented, a bridge between worlds, anchored in both, yet limited by neither. When they finally separated, they found themselves changed. Kale now carried a single foxtail, a mark of spiritual essence woven into his being. His lifespan had extended to match Yuki's, but he retained his mortal ability to grow, change, and cherish each moment's uniqueness. Yuki's 3 tails had become 4, signifying her acceptance of mortal depth of feeling. She could now age alongside him if she chose, experiencing time as mortals did, rather than watching it pass unchanged. "We did it," Kale breathed, wonder flooding his voice as he perceived the world with new senses, seeing the spiritual energy flowing through all living things, hearing the whispers of ancient magic, feeling the interconnected web that bound everything together. "We created something new," Yuki agreed, examining her transformed essence with awe. Not spirit downed by eternal law, not mortal limited by brief candle flame, but both, together.
They established their sanctuary in the Valley of Singing Streams, where the barrier between worlds grew thin. Mortals seeking healing or wisdom found their way there, drawn by rumors of the botanist sage and his fox spirit partner. Spirits curious about mortal experience visited too, learning that connection need not diminish their essence. Word eventually reached Yuki's clan elders, who arrived expecting to find corruption and chaos. Instead, they discovered a thriving space where both realms flourished. Mortals learning spiritual awareness, spirits understanding impermanence's beauty, and at the center, two beings who had refused to accept impossible choices. "You've broken every law," the eldest Kitsune said, though his tone held more wonder than accusation. "We've written new ones," Yuki replied, standing hand in hand with Kale. "Laws that say love isn't weakness, that bridges are stronger than walls, that different worlds can nourish each other rather than remaining forever separate." Years passed like pages in a treasured book, each season bringing new discoveries, deeper understanding, and moments of simple joy. Kale never stopped marveling at the way morning light caught in Yuki's hair, and she never tired of his mortal habit of expressing gratitude for small wonders. They grew together rather than apart, their love evolving but never diminishing. On their 100th anniversary, surrounded by students and spirit friends, children of both worlds who had learned to walk between realms, Kale held Yuki close and whispered, "You still taste divine." She laughed, the sound like silver bells, "And you still taste like home." Lessons of the heart. True love recognizes no boundaries. Neither worlds nor lifetimes can contain a heart that chooses to connect across all divides. The greatest courage is vulnerability shared. When two souls open themselves completely, they create something more beautiful than either could achieve alone. Time's value lies not in its quantity, but its quality. A single moment of genuine connection outweighs centuries of isolated existence.